Breaking ball hit well, deep to center. Roller going back, near the wall. This baby's gonna go! Troy Johnston has a 3-run bomb!
This is the Turn 2 podcast with Scott Kornberg and Troy Johnston.
Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Are you nervous?
Slightly.
I'm extremely nervous. This is Patrick Monteverde's debut on Turn 2 with Scott and Troy. So, viewers, we are super excited to announce our very next guest, Patrick Monteverde. He has been an unbelievable pitcher for the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. We are super excited to have him on our 6th episode of Turn 2 with Scott and Troy. Pat, we're super excited to have you here. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. First off, I want to ask a quick question for you. You've had an unbelievable start to the year, 2-0, carrying a 1.8 ERA so far. Is there something that you think this year that you can have a chip on your shoulder bringing in that realistically had a good year last year, got brought back down to AA, again, brought back up to AAA this year? Is there something that kind of like is keeping you tick this year to have this great start?
Well, first, thanks for having me, with Troy and Scott.
Thanks,
I'm excited to be here. And I feel like I always kind of keep a chip on my shoulder, just from my upbringing. That's kind of how I've always been. My mom and dad are both the youngest of 12. I'm the youngest of my family, so we kind of grew up a little blue-collar-esque, I guess, and always feel like you have something to prove.
So you say you grew up blue-collar. You dress extremely well to call yourself blue-collar. I would almost call you white-collar. Like, you are dressed in Lululemon and, dare I say, sometimes Gucci. Is there something that, like, does that blue-collar background really kind of, like you say, give you that extra push that, you know, when you're down 2-0, something like that kind of is what drives everything coming throughout the game?
Yeah, I'd say that's a lot of my, like, inner talk and thoughts on the mound, because realistically, you are by yourself out there. Nobody's really close to you either. You know, you're kind of in the middle of it, and it's just you, yourself, and not out there. So I think my inner thoughts are definitely stem from my upbringing. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of, I mean, some people might think it's negative, but to me, it's not a negative thought. I'm not derailing myself. I'm just getting my engine going a little bit faster.
Yeah. You mentioned the upbringing. So I read this great story. You are the youngest grandchild of 27, I believe. Both your parents are the youngest of 12. So you're constantly kind of looking up to, presumably, your older cousins, your uncles, aunts as a kid. How did just being in a humongous family kind of help you get to this point?
Yeah, I was always chasing something, you know, and then in minor league baseball, you're always chasing something. You know, you're always chasing to be either the best on your team, be the best in the league, get to the next league, and then that kind of restarts. And then even in the big leagues, you know, you have a challenge. Like, I view it as chasing to be the best pitcher on the team. And if I'm in the big leagues right now, and if I'm the best pitcher on our team in the big leagues, I'm probably one of the best best on the Marlins. I'm probably one of the best in the big leagues with that staff, with Zeus, Sandy, Yuri, Cabby, Weathers, Puck, Braxton, Max. I mean, those are some real dudes with high ceilings in the big leagues. So chasing, you know, when I was younger, chasing my older cousins, trying to be faster than them, trying to be stronger than them, better than them at golf, because we're a big golf family. That really helped me kind of get the head start I needed and the push and the drive.
Competition kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely.
So
like ping pong's real in the clubhouse.
Who's the best in the clubhouse, by the way? Is it you? Are you pushing to be the best there?
I won't answer that. I'll let Troy answer that.
I'm gonna give Patty. He's probably a strong third, pushing for second in the clubhouse right now. I'd say he's up there. He's definitely. I mean, we got 30 guys in there ish with all the rehab guys. I would say that he's definitely top 5.
He's a number 1 seed.
I'd give him.
Seed.
Yes, 100% number 1 seed.
Braxton and Max. got me.
Max is very competitive.
That's what I was
chasing
saying.
him, though. I'm chasing him. It's fine.
Okay,
we got
so,
some time.
So talking about you're talking about different sports that you played. You said you came from a golf family. Of course, we've golfed together. He was the champion of our minor league golf tournament in spring training in 2023.
It was this year.
Oh, it was this year?
Wow.
Yeah, I came in second last year.
Came in second last year, champion this year. Realistically, we all have a story of why we play baseball, but you say you come from a golf family. Why baseball? What stood out to you growing up, whether it was you were just decided to be good at baseball or whether it just kind of fell into your lap? Tell us about that.
So I remember my first T-ball practice. It was about 45 and raining, wind, and I had like the best time ever. Everybody was miserable, and I was like, man, this is fun. Like, hit it harder. I was playing first base, and I was catching all of them. I didn't miss any, and I was like, hit it harder. I like this. This is fun. And then eventually when I was like 8 or 9, got into pitching, and my dad was one of the coaches, but he kind of handled the offense and the fielders. He was a shortstop when he played. And then the other coach was a left-handed pitcher, and he was a command guy, didn't throw too hard. And he kind of taught me the importance and the effectiveness of, going inside to a hitter, then going away. He's like, these are two different pitches. Even if they're the same speed, if one's inside to a righty, then away to a righty. Those are two different pitches, timing-wise. And that's kind of when I started taking notes on terms of effective velocity. And then Greg Maddux had that. I don't think it's a book, but I think he just had a speech about it, or he said something about it, and then he kind of broke the numbers down. Like 90 down the middle looks 90, but if you go up and in, it looks 98, and if you go low and away, it's 83. And 83 and 98 is 15 miles an hour difference with the same. And realistically, they're both 90, on the scoreboard.
So how are you trying to set up, I know you don't want to give away probably too many secrets, but you talked about the inner dialogue in your head, right? Presumably you get the scouting reports on certain guys. Are there ways hey, this guy's hot zone is here, he feasts on fastballs, or he's weak on breaking balls, whatever that is, are there ways you're trying to set them up when you're pitching first at bat versus when you might see a guy third time through the order versus when you might see him 2 weeks from now or something like that? Yeah,
absolutely. Scouting report is huge. And for me, it's the heat maps tell part of it, but it's not the end all be all. I like to read swings. Really their first move. Their load, and then after their load, the first move, wherever their hands go and their body go, kind of tells me how I need to attack them with my strengths. So if a guy, but at the same time, it's not the end all be all, because it's still a game. We're still humans. You know what I mean? It on that side of the plate. I feel like you cover all parts of the plate well. But when I see somebody snap it, I attack up and in, because I think that's a hole. But it's not necessarily to get them out. It's just to set them up. And then third time through the order, it's kind of, I don't want to say everything goes out the window, but it's pretty much mono y mono. And you're reading swings. Scouting report kind of doesn't go out the window, but you're reading swings pitch to pitch more so the third time through the order compared to, the first time you see a guy.
Well, no, we were talking about, before the show, we were talking about Paul Skeens and how he's having an awesome start, but realistically, he's only going through the order once, usually. So when you start getting deeper into games, of course, you've been pitching into the 5th, 6th, sometimes you're seeing guys 3 times. Is there a different mindset? Of course, you're reading swings, like you're saying, but is there a different mindset from the very first time you're facing a guy versus to the third time you're facing a guy? You're at the end of your start. You're just trying to get outs. You're trying to keep doing whatever you're doing. Is there like a mental shift? Is there something else that you focus on later in the game versus the beginning?
Yeah, slightly. I remember the foul balls, the hard hit balls, a little bit more the third time through rather than the swings and misses, because I have 5 pitches. I can throw them all for strikes at any time and any count, any batter. But the hard hit balls are where I know not to go again, unless it's, we all make mistakes though, but normally the hard hit balls are the ones in the middle. So it just really comes down to execution and feeling my misses. If I feel like I'm getting low and away to a righty, but it's middle, I really have to feel my miss out and think about my direction and go from there. It's not so much a focus on the hitter, it's more so a focus on myself. Because if I know, I mean, hitting's hard. There's no secret about it. It's probably the hardest thing to do in any sport.
Oh, I would agree.
Yeah, so it comes down to execution. Because if I execute, I like my chances.
Yeah.
So with Skeens, he's going 3 innings to start on average. Max Meyer's here. He's going 3 innings to start. And I think teams are doing this to try to limit guys to prevent injury, right? And you've gone deeper into games. Do you feel like there are guys, because they know, okay, I'm only going 3 innings, I could just airmail it out for 3 innings, but you've got to pace yourself a little bit more. Do you feel like that maybe contributes to some of the issues that we're seeing right now, pitching injury-wise, is that we're almost teaching guys that you're only going to go 3 innings anyway, you might as well use all your stuff?
Man, I think you can write a book on why injuries are going up. If that has something to do with it, I think it could. But at the same time, if you're going 3 innings, it's not like you're only going 3 innings. It's blow it out. You only have 3 innings. You're going 3 innings compared to your mental state shouldn't shift if you're going 7. You're going 3 so you can have an easier week of preparation for the next. But if you blow it out for 3 innings, it's like a closer going 3 innings. He's probably down for 3 days, right? In the big leagues. If somebody gets a 9-out save, those guys are max effort. And I think a lot of it's mental, or not in terms of good or bad. It's just like how you actually mentally attack that day with 3 innings. I don't think it should change. You should finish 3 innings feeling like you should be able to go, 7, 8, 9 innings, but physically speaking. So, after 3 innings, if you're shot, you should probably step off of it a little bit. But I'm not a big proponent of, letting pitches rip. I probably rip 1 or 2 a game. That's it. But, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
So
140 some games, 25, 30 starts. It's a long season.
It is. You said it best. It is a marathon, not a sprint. So going back to a little bit before, we'll call it new age baseball, back when Nolan Ryan would pitch complete games back to back, he'd keep doing it over and over again.
Greg Maddux, you brought up.
Greg Maddux, another one. We're talking about some of the pitching greats. Do you think that do you like the shift, especially as a starter, that realistically they don't let you go longer than 6 or 7? Do you want to pitch 9 innings more often than not? Is it just like a personal thing? Because some guys, maybe they're, a 5 and dive guy, and they're like, I'm going to pitch my 5, I'm going to let the bullpen take the rest. Or are you the guy that wants to pitch 9 innings? Because we don't see that very often. You don't see a lot of complete games unless they're, under 90 pitches, 100 pitches, something like that.
Yeah, I'd love to go 9. Every single time I step out there, I'd love to go 9. One, I'm achieving what I set out every single time I go out to start. And 2, it helps the team, right? You have the next day, every single guy in the bullpen's fresh. And you don't know what can happen. Anything can happen, right? Guy gets hit around, guy's not finding the zone. Injuries happen a lot. It's, having a fresh bullpen with all those guys back there that we have ready to go, I like our chances to win back-to-back games.
So I'm going to switch it up a bit. You have a very interesting story. It's led to a lot of your success in professional baseball so far. You have played at the Division III level, you've played at the Division II level, and you have played at the Division I level. Talk us through, what does that transfer process look like? What was high school look like for you? Tell us your full background leading up to essentially draft day in 2021.
So in high school, I topped out at my senior year. I topped out at 84, but I had sub 1 ERA.
Yeah, because you're nasty.
Changeups.
Wait, 84 mile an hour changeups? Dang.
Not 77, 76. Maybe 70.
That's my fastball.
Maybe 70.
That's my fastball. Oof.
But yeah, I didn't really get recruited. Had one money offer. It was a Division II school, and it was $3,000 off of $53,000 for tuition. So it was kind of couldn't really do it. Didn't have a 4.0 to get $40,000 off of the tuition for academics. So decided to go D3, and yeah, I thought it was the big leagues when I got there, though. It was so cool. We had a locker room. We had jerseys with their names on it. We had a tarp. I was like, wow, this is
We
sweet.
had a tarp.
This is sweet. And then my freshman year, I had a really, pitched really well, got a lot of outs. So that kind of gave me like the confidence that I had going into it. Because I told my parents knew when I was 9 years old this is what I wanted to do. And then I told my my high school coaches that I wanted to play the game at the highest level and, be good at it, not just get there, but be great. And, my pitching coach told me, he was like, I'm on board, but just know, like, if you don't get offers now, that's on them. And they just don't see you as a late bloomer, but you're going to be a late bloomer. So just keep your head down. Don't let anything coaches derail you, because when you're in high school, you think college coaches know everything. And now you kind of see the truth. Not saying that they don't know anything, but there's a lot of...
They missed on you. Big time.
And then I entered the portal, got one walk-on offer. It was at a D2 school, the same one that offered me. So my first year, I wasn't on scholarship at the Division II school.
Seton Hill, right?
And then the next 2 years, they were just out of money at the time. He said, we don't have anything now, but the next, 2-3 years that you're here, you'll be on some scholarship.
Okay, yeah.
And then so the Division III gave me the confidence I needed. The Division II really gave me the discipline and the accountability that I didn't know that I needed at the time. But it was like 5 a.m. lifts, team activities. Like it's called Seton Hill because it's on a giant hill. And it was like 5 a.m. We had to flip a tire the whole way up the hill. It's like a quarter mile. It's big. And we were done for. But it was like a team bonding thing because we didn't have a clubhouse either, which at the time I didn't know how important it is. I think that's what makes good teams with good talent great on the field, is having a really fun clubhouse, which we do in there. Yes. And I'm excited to see where this team goes. I don't know how long we'll be together. There's already been a lot of movement, but we can't really control that. But at the end of the day, we can control what goes on in there with whoever's in there. And, it's starting to translate on the field with us. And then, 3 years at Seton Hill, kind of became a little bit of a prospect in the D2 world. And then COVID hit and, entered the portal. Coaches couldn't contact you for like the first couple months because of I think it was either a dead period or because of the pandemic. One or the other, but they couldn't contact you, but there was no rules against social media. So in 2020, it was my first season. It would have been my first full season after TJ, which is extremely vital in terms of longevity and health. And I threw one rehab start, 3 innings, and then COVID hit. So I kind of had a modified full season at my agent's facility in Ohio. So I would drive 4 or 5 times a week to Ohio and work out with, there's really just like 4 or 5 guys that pretty much are career dependent on continuing to work. And actually all 4 of us got in the Pro Bowl. I think there's only 1 or 2 of us left, including myself, but still it was great. And then got to work out. In terms of working out, it was more of a trying to get better, not maintenance as it is in season at the time, at least. So I threw a bullpen. I was like 92, 95, posted on Twitter and, kind of blew up from there. And then I ended up getting 43 Division I offers.
So with your 43 Division I offers, why Texas Tech?
Well, I was 22 at the time, right? So
dang, 22. Why do you make that sound so old?
Well, to get your first offer at 22. Most guys are done playing. And I can kind of see through the BS a little bit. And one, J-Bob was as open and honest as it gets. He apologized for not recruiting me out of high school, which I thought was pretty cool. I wasn't expecting that, didn't expect that or want that or anything, but I thought it was just like a nice gesture. And he was genuine about it too. And most of all, I wanted to win a World Series. And I think those guys gave me the best chance to. And at the end of the day, they put their money where their mouth was.
So you mentioned your high school coaches and how they saw you as a late bloomer. It's still an incredible story to go from Division III to AAA baseball now on the cusp of the major leagues. The way you've pitched here is incredible. 10 consecutive scoreless innings. Was there ever a time you doubted that? Because it seemed like so many things had to happen, right? And then you're coming off this major injury, and the pandemic hits. I mean, it could have ended there, and it didn't. Was there times where you felt this vision you guys had was maybe not meant to be?
No. No, honestly,
That's
when
cool.
the pandemic hit, I was like behind home plate at our field at Seton Hill, and it's about a 2-minute walk to the cafeteria. And on my way up, I called my agent and I said, "Hey man, like, it wasn't a doubt. It was just like, hey, what's the plan? Like, what are we going to do? How are we going to go about this? Or, maneuver around a pandemic?" And I mean, I trust him with all my heart, and he's led me in some great places. And he said, "No, man, you're good. Don't worry about it. We got it. I got a plan." I was like, "All right, sounds good. I'll probably be home in a couple days, and we'll touch base with you again soon." And that's when he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to leave the facility open. Don't tell anybody." But, I mean, you can tell your parents and friends, but, like, if the CDC comes knocking, don't tell them. Which wasn't an issue.
Fauci comes find you.
Yeah, right. You don't know where he is.
So that is such an interesting. I mean, for all the kids out there watching, we got a lot of like younger kids coming up, college kids, like all that kind of stuff. Like your story of determination, of never giving up, that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on. Is like that's literally the hardest part of playing baseball, playing sports. It's literally, I have chills right now thinking about it. Like, it's the determination, the grit, there's so many different words for it, but realistically it's just perseverance.
Yeah.
Over and over again, day in, day out, trying to do your best, knowing that you have an end goal in mind and doing anything you can to get to that end goal. And that's just really admirable of you.
Well, thanks, man. Appreciate
Yeah, of course.
Pittsburgh is where you grew up. And you talked about blue collar, like that is I think the personality of the city, right?
Yeah.
You still follow all these teams. So Pirates, Penguins, Steelers. I don't follow hockey very closely. I know the Steelers have 2 new quarterbacks now. Pirates off to a good start. Was there a team of those 3, or maybe even University of Pittsburgh, that you followed more than the others growing up?
It definitely wasn't the University of Pittsburgh. They had 3 chances to call me and they didn't. I won't forget that. I'd say the Pirates in 2013, when McCutcheon, I think he won the MVP that year, and they made the postseason the first time in 22 years. And PNC Park was sold out. A.J. Burnett said, "Everybody wear black, make it a blackout." And Cueto dropped the ball.
You told me a great story about that last year.
Yeah, whenever he was in Pensacola with us, my dad was like, "You got to go up to him and be like, Cueto." I was like, "Dad, I'm not doing that." I think he remembers, though. If I tell him I'm from Pittsburgh, I'm sure he'll think about it. But
Didn't Cueto go out to the bars with you that night too?
yeah. We had a good time, man. We had a good clubhouse. We had a good time. And I'll tell you what, we won how many straight? We won 8 straight, lost 1, won 10 straight, won 7 of the next 10. And then, yeah, we were hot. We were that was a close knit. And, I mean, Cueto saw how close knit we were, and, it was fun. It was a good time. And we won ball games. Makes everything a lot easier when you're winning ball games.
What do you think about having my guy Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh?
Oh, I'm ready, man. I'm locked.
Wilson over Fields.
Steelers country, let's ride.
Steelers Nation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Should be Steelers World.
Steelers Universe?
But yeah, I'm ready for it, man. I'm excited. I saw that move, and Pittsburgh doesn't really have a lot of, like, across the board in any sports, they don't have a lot of moves like that. So to get Russell Wilson, then 2 weeks later get Justin Fields, I was fired up to see. But I don't want to be one of those fans that get really excited when they sign a big free agent and they get let down, kind of like, Broncos with Russell Wilson. But
yeah,
I'm excited. I think it's going to be Wilson this year, and I think Fields will have the helm with years to come. I mean, he could be a dynasty quarterback. He's got the talent for it.
I hope so. My wife's a Bears fan. She wanted them to keep Justin Fields, by the way. You guys have both talked about this. The clubhouse here seems really tight-knit, and that is rare for AAA because, I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of guys who are bitter because they feel, I should be in the major leagues or whatever circumstances has them here and not in the majors. What's that been like? Because, we even hear stories of other teams where it's a just disruptive clubhouse and guys don't get along. You guys don't have that. How has that helped both of you so far in this young season?
I think it's easy. I mean, there's never a bad day. Like, I look forward to coming into the ballpark every day. And it's becoming a brotherhood. And I think what the public needs to know is great teams aren't just great because of the talent. A lot of it is behind closed doors, which the public doesn't get an eye, because that's, our little sanctuary in there.
Yeah, I don't think MLB would allow a camera to go into the clubhouses and see how minor leaguers really live, but we're pretty like all for one for all kind of people. And I just think because we're all down here, we're all like, screw it, we might as well win, because if we get our shot, we get our shot. If we don't, we don't. It kind of is what it is, especially in, different organizations. You got a lot of guys from a lot of different organizations, and there's a lot of knowledge being passed around all the time. Like, we got guys who've been in the big leagues for 10 years, and then we got guys who haven't been in the big leagues. We got guys that have one day in the big leagues. Like, it's such a diverse group that realistically there's not a hierarchy where you got, maybe a couple guys that have 2 or 3 years that just got snubbed because the younger guy comes in. It's like, we have such a diverse group that it meshes well. And I think that's interesting, especially because, like, I want to say in 22 when I was first here, I would agree with you. I think it was a kind of a tough clubhouse to be in, because a lot of guys were very upset that they weren't in the big leagues, and they weren't. And, everybody was very bitter. 23, it got a little bit better, I think this year by far might be one of the better Jumbo Shrimp teams I've played on.
There's a chance you might get a call, right? In AAA, both you guys, you're one step away. If you get that call, I mean, who's your first call to let them know you're going to the major leagues, and what would you tell them?
I'd FaceTime both of my parents at the same time and just tell them that we did it. We did it. Meet you in wherever it is. And, I mean, I don't really know what I would say. I would say we did it.
Yeah.
I'm going up. But then after that, I think it'd just be a lot of emotion, to be honest with you.
Would you cry?
100%.
Oh, like a baby.
I like that he admits
Did
it.
you see the Cam Boozer video for the Red Sox?
I don't know who that is.
Okay, so Cam Boozer, I'm going to shout him out here on my podcast. I might have to tag him. So I trained with him in 2020 and 2021. In 2017, he gave up baseball, got TJ. He was 100 from the left side, starter. Went to Indy Ball, tried to make a comeback. In 2021, 2022, he just debuted at 31 in the big leagues with the Red Sox, and he was on the bench, essentially. He pitched in the 7th, 8th inning, I think, on the bench, balling with the ball in his hands, hat off, everything like that. I'm like, dude, again, look at that.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I think about it all the time. And, like, stories like that, like, are unbelievable, and why we love sports, why we talk about it, why it's such an interesting part. And the fact that we get to live it is unbelievable. Because everybody wants to be in that position, right? Yeah. Everybody wants to get the call, want to talk to their parents, want to do all that kind of stuff. But we all talk about it all the time. It's cool to get up there, but even like Brownie talks about it all, how do you stay up there?
Yep.
That's the hardest part. Is like, you see the guys that are up there for 5 years, 6 years, 10, 12, like day in, day out, like we talk about with your story, having perseverance and stuff like that. Scott, when you get the call to go up to the big leagues,
you know, it's the God's ears.
Who are you going to call first? I have
my wife and then parents probably. Got to put her first. She's got 2 kids at home, and she watches them every time we go on the road. It's just her and them, and that's hard. And she's amazing. She's pushed me through. I've had offers to leave, and she said no. You got to keep going, and that's amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
I think the wife would be a little upset if you didn't call her.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just thinking about that. Like, if you got a wife or girlfriend out there and you're listening, please, when something good happens, call them first, because they get really upset when you don't.
I did say her name first. I do want to say I know my dad and my mom would love it though. One more question for you, Patrick. You mentioned in the very beginning, you're measuring up. How do I measure up to all these guys, Alcantara, Perez, Braxton Garrett, Cabrera, Max Meyer? We've seen 2 rehabbers in the starting rotation here. Braxton's still down there, apparently winning a lot of ping pong games. And Max is now too. Between that and spring training, I mean, where do you see Now, you had 2 starts here last year. One of them was great. One of them didn't really go so well.
That was horrible. I'll call it spade.
Yeah. But you've come back and you ended up going back down there. You pitched in the Futures game, so it ended up being awesome. You were a Marlins organizational all-star. So clearly you did something right to move on from that. And now you've come back here and you've been tremendous. You've been our best starter by far so far. So between the spring and seeing these guys on rehabs, where do you see yourself continuing to measure up to that level of really good major league starter?
Well, I think this spring training was my first kind of go at it with the big league team. And I was, like I said, I had something to prove. I wanted to show them, who I was. It doesn't matter if I'm not throwing 100. I'm going to blow your doors in 90, 91, if that's a pitch. And I'm going to throw with everything I got. And just to kind of show them, and, it went well. Threw well in spring. Everything was kind of synced up. Timing was good. Had a good off season. I was ready to go. Pitch shapes were, on point. Made a little adjustment too to get a little bit more extension, so the ball kind of has some more, giddy up on it to the hitter. But yeah, I think I'd like to think I can compete with anybody.
No doubt.
God, I love that.
If you need to win a game, I'll got it. I got it.
Tomorrow, maybe. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Jumbo Shrimp need a win tomorrow. Let's call Patty. All right, Patty, I got one last question for you before we wrap it up. So one of my favorite segments of the show that we do, especially Scott and I, we started out and we have our favorite quotes, something that keeps us going, something that keeps us locked in, whether it's we're at our high, we're at our low. Do you have a favorite quote that maybe you've lived by, whether it's been this week, your life, this month, whatever it is? Do you got anything like that? Kind of put you on the spot, huh?
Yeah, I do, but it's I kind of take it. It was made as a joke, but I kind of take it to heart.
Is it explicit?
No.
Thank goodness. Let's hear it. I love it.
If you ain't first, you're last.
I love
Like if
Ricky
you're
Bobby.
the first loser,
Yeah.
you're trying to win. You're not trying to come in second. So who cares if you came in? You're close if you're in second, but you didn't do it. So
I love it.
yeah, took it to heart.
I love it. Will Ferrell. What a guy.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get Will
Good
Ferrell on
movie.
this show, too. We
I'll
can have
give him a
Patty
call.
and Will Ferrell go
That'd be
both
awesome.
together, and they can both say, if you're not first, you're last.
I'll let him say it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Patty. We appreciate it. You have been an awesome guest for us. We wish you all the best in your future. We can't wait to see you pitch the rest of the season. We really hope you get the call. We'd love to be a nice shout out for you. We're going to put some nice pictures up there when you're in Miami or whoever else takes you. We never know. It's baseball. But please check us out wherever you guys get your podcasts. We are also on YouTube. Thank you so much for being on Turn 2 with Scott and Troy with us, Pat. Any last words you got for us?
Shout out Pittsburgh, man.
Shout out Pittsburgh. I love it. Patty, thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank you guys.
kid.
Thanks for having
Thanks,
me.
Patrick.
Of course. Thank you.
And that's a wrap. Cut it.
And that's the ball game. Thanks for listening to this episode of Turn 2 Podcast with Scott and Troy. A huge thanks to Ken Babby, Harold Craw, Linda McNabb, Noel Blaha, Matt Goodrow, David Ratz, Elian Bay, and the rest of the Jumbo Shrimp staff for their continued support.